Hey everybody, let's talk about selling the adventure. So I've been doing a lot of RPG stuff these days, and I noticed that we've drifted away from a core design concept. If that's on purpose, fine, to each their own. But if it's just because we've forgotten about this, let's talk about it. Let's unforget it. Let's talk about selling the adventure. The basic idea is pretty simple. RPGs are intended to be an adventure. That's why we play them. So anything you put into an RPG should help to sell the experience of having an adventure. Does your battle system feel adventure-y enough? How about directly before the battle? Directly after the battle? How about between battles? Learning about what battles might be coming up, preparing for battles. All of that stuff can help to sell the adventure, if you're paying attention. How about leveling up? Does it feel like you're forging yourself through endless conquest or whatever it is your adventure is about? How about your inventory system? How do you get stuff? How do you use stuff? How do you equip stuff? How do you sell stuff? How do you craft stuff? Do those things help the experience of your adventure, or are you just importing them because they're standard? How about your story beats? How about your skill checks? How about how your party works? How about how you move through the world? All of these things and everything else you can think of should help to sell the experience of the adventure. Give you a common problem. Indie RPGs frequently make the combat system as complicated as possible because they have a feeling like that is the heart of the RPG. So they're like, well, there's 8 different elements and 14 different attacks, and they go against these 4 kinds of armor and these 3 kinds of health that regenerate at different rates. And then you've got this turn order thing where you can manipulate the turn order by using the correct elemental attacks. You also have to worry about the elemental attacks and how they stack up to charge your mana, which is different from your super meter, which is different from your team attack meter. And you're also going to want to worry about whether your summon can work given the elemental affinity of your chakra, of your stones, and your whatever. Does this kind of complex battle system help to sell the adventure? Not unless the adventure is about a nerdy kid that loves spreadsheets, which, to be honest, sounds like a pretty cool idea. But in general, no. In general, the battle system is not going to be more adventure-y because it's more complicated. In general, adventure combat is not supposed to be complicated. It is supposed to be testing your mettle and pushing through with grit and determination. That's kind of the point of an adventure. And most of the most famous RPGs either have a very simple battle system, to start with at least, or they have a very easy battle system, which can only be really, the complexity is not important until you get to the really, really challenging modes. For example, Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger has a very easy battle system because the focus is on the monsters that you can see in the world. The whole point is that as you're wandering around the world of Chrono Trigger, you see some monsters hanging out, and you're like, oh no. And then you walk near them, and they're like, ah, look, there's a hero. Get him. And they jump on you, and you're like, ah, well, let's fight. And you duke it out, and you punch them in the face, and they punch you in the face. And you come out the other side, and you're victorious, but you're still bruised. And you're like, oh, that was tough. We better not make that same kind of battle mistake again. Let's do it better next time. The battle itself is only a small part of the whole. How it rolls throughout is how the adventure feels. The adventure is not fight these dudes. The adventure is, shit, there's dudes over there. Oh no, they saw us. Let's fight these dudes out. That was tough. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen next time? We need to stop for a second, get our wits about us, and bravely push forward again later. The complexity of the battle system is only there to let the player grip the game. It's not there to be the game. And that's an important thing to understand. We see a lot of RPGs where the battle system is basically divorced from the rest of the game, and that never really helps me feel like I'm having an adventure. Like, oh, I had a battle, and then I got all my mana back, and all my health back, and nothing happened, and I got graded like this is some kind of school test. It doesn't really feel like an adventure to me. Similarly, if I'm trying to, min-max my stats perfectly so that I can get an 8% better bonus, it's like, it's not really the kind of adventure I want to have. I only want enough complexity to help sell me on the experience that I'm having. that string, that adventure through the various pieces of the RPG, that's what makes the adventure pop. It's not your battle is like this. It's like you're in town, you gear up because you hear that there are certain kinds of enemies. You go into the wilderness. Oh my gosh, we're never going to get through. Look at all these bad guys. We got to push through. Fight. Okay, we managed. Let's move on. Oh my gosh, there's a treasure chest. Oh no, what's that guarding the treasure chest? Another fight. Move on. The fight isn't the part that needs to be complex. In fact, none of it needs to be complex. It just needs to be part of the whole. The whole being, of course, an adventure. In many cases, this isn't something that requires you to change your mechanics out. It just requires you to change how you think about things. Let's say that we're having an adventure and there is a hill with a lot of scree on it. And we're down at the bottom of the hill and we're going to try and climb the hill. Oh, what's up there? What sort of situation are we in? Well, some level designers will be like, oh, that's just a DC 10 dex test. But that's not how this is, because that doesn't help the adventure. If I am playing Magey McMajorson of Fireball Mountain, can I climb that hill? No, because I specifically chose to make a nerdy character with no physical capabilities. It wouldn't make sense for me to climb the hill. There's no reason to do a DC 10 test. I'm not a person who should be able to climb that hill. If I can climb that hill, I'm not me. I'm having somebody else's adventure. It's not mine because I'm a nerdy person who can't climb the hill. Similarly, if I'm Thiefy McThieferson who burgles second-story windows for a living and carries around ropes and grappling hooks and stuff, can I climb the hill? DC 10 dex test? Of course I can climb the hill, but why is there a chance of failing? What sort of adventure would be better because the thief can't climb the hill? That doesn't make any sense. That's not the thief's adventure. The thief is a character class specifically designed to be able to climb shit. There shouldn't be any chance of failure because that failure does not enrich the adventure. Similarly, if I play a character who has moderate physical skills, like, I'm, the Warlock Smazel, and I've got some magic spells, and I've got some swordy stuff, and I can do whatever, right? A little bit. Yeah, maybe I'll have a skill test. Maybe I'll be able to climb the hill. Maybe I won't be. That would make sense because that's, a character who doesn't define themselves based on this. But if a thief can't climb the hill, that means that I wasted all of my points and time building this character with this dex, and it just didn't work out. It's like, what a waste. But even with all of these considered, there are good ways and bad ways to present this kind of opportunity. Getting up to the top of the hill, obviously, is a pass. You don't really need to think about that too hard, right? But when I fail to get up the hill, whether it's because I fail a skill check or because I'm the wrong kind of character, what happens? Because there is no adventure in something not happening. If I go up to the hill and I stare at it and then I climb up and fall down a little bit, that's not adventure-y. That's not part of my journey. That is me not doing something. So the real way to present this isn't you try to climb the hill and you fail. It's you try to climb the hill, but you have to go around. Do you see the difference there? The difference is that there is now an action that we have to take. We have to go around the hill. That is massively different from just not being able to go up the hill. Instead of being a journey which just stops, it's now a journey which has to be redirected. There's now a new adventure, the adventure of going around the hill. Not an amazing adventure, but it is an action item. It is something we can work with. The thing about this is, in the fullness of time, chances are pretty high that the person that got to the top of the hill will finish whatever's up there, come down, and also have to go around the hill. So at the end of the day, both adventures go the same place, right? So you might be thinking that there is really no difference between these presentation options. It's just, if you have a high enough dex, you go up the hill and you get your reward. Otherwise, you don't. Both characters end up in the same place. But that's not how the adventure unfolds in our head. It's about the experience of the adventure. If I go to the hill and I can't get up it, I don't want to be told that I therefore can't have an adventure. I want to be told that my adventure is now harder because I suck at that. I have to go around the hill. I have to face whatever is around the next corner. And sure, maybe the thief also has to do that, but they don't have to be told that because they never stopped. They keep rolling forward. Their adventure doesn't need to be guided because they've never stumbled. Maybe they'll stumble later when there's some kind of intelligence test or something. But the whole point here is, if you fail, you don't want to stop. Failure should always roll into the next adventure beat, even if that adventure beat is as lame as go around the hill. I'll give you an example of this from Baldur's Gate 3, which is really a disappointment because I was thinking that we'd outgrown these kinds of things, but apparently we haven't. So I'm bringing it up again. Baldur's Gate 3 has a sequence where you are talking to a little boy who is standing in some rocks. Hey, little boy, how you doing? Feeling pretty good? And of course, the little boy isn't feeling very good. He is weird and creepy, and that's kind of the point. And there's some rocks, and he's kind of hiding in the rocks. And then he ducks down into the rocks and vanishes. And you get to do an int test to check whether or not you can see where he vanished to. There is no adventure that is made better by not being able to tell where a small child ducked through the rocks. That doesn't make any adventure better. And it's not an easy check either. So it's one of those things where you fail the check and the game tells you, well, I guess we won't be doing that part of the adventure. Boy, you suck. That's a really bad way to sell the adventure. To tell the player that they just can't do this part of the adventure. Sorry, this part of the adventure is closed off to you. That's not selling the adventure. That's unselling the adventure. That's taking the adventure away. And that's a bad way to do things. If you want to see the right way to do things, you can play Disco Elysium, which I'm shocked that we still have this kind of skill check because Disco Elysium now exists. You should just go play it and see how skill checks should work. I also have a video about it, but I'll give you a short little summary here. Skill checks are a valuable part of an adventure. The only thing is you have to twist around how you're thinking about failing and passing. Let's say that there is a locked door. So here is a locked door. And sorry, my pen isn't quite working for me to hear it. And I am a thiefy McThieferson picking this lock. It is a skill test. I have to be X skilled to pick the lock. What happens when I fail? Well, you got a couple of options. One option is, oh, you didn't pick the lock. Oh, well, I guess that room's closed off to you forever. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Oh, what a great adventure that is. No, that's a terrible, terrible solution. There are a lot of other possibilities. One possibility is bad success. A bad success is simply, it works, but it's not the way you wanted it. So you can't pick the lock, but instead of you failing to pick the lock, it's just that you're taking too long, and your paladin buddy gets annoyed and kicks the door open, making a lot of noise and waking up whatever is in the next room. Or you try and pick the lock and you succeed, but you also set off the trap, or whatever, 100 other options. A second one is forced success, which is, or I don't know what to call it, optional success. Optional success is when you fail it, but you are allowed to win anyway if you do something. For example, you failed the lockpicking test, but if you lockpick it for an hour, you will automatically succeed. So you can definitely get through this door, but it's going to take you an hour. Not like a real-time hour, just like a fantasy game hour. And if time is tight, that's obviously not going to be a concern. That is a concern. But if time is not tight, that's not a good answer because people will just say, yeah, whatever, I'll spend a fantasy game hour because it doesn't, no skin off my nose, right? But you can have whatever sort of price you want. You can get through the door if you don't mind breaking your lockpicks. You can get through the door if you don't mind spraining your finger or whatever. There's a million possibilities here. But the point here is that the penalty for failing is you can succeed, but it will cost you this, or you can walk away. These two options mixed together as you need really help to make these skill checks work. They make it so they're part of an adventure rather than just a place where you failed so you don't get to go on adventuring. The third option is trying again, of course. Trying again always needs to have some kind of mechanism behind it. You picked the lock, you failed. Try again, you succeeded. Now, that's not very interesting, right? So you need to have some kind of mechanism gating the trying again. And this is where you can really sell your adventure. What's your gating mechanism? What has to happen before the player can try again? Do they have to pick another lock in the same area and say, oh, that makes sense? Do they have to find some script like you're looking at the library and you're like, oh, look, they ordered the type T8 locks. That explains it. Do you have to get better at lockpicking, gain a level, rest, change your gear so that you have a different dex? All of these things can help you to try again, but you have to ask yourself when you're planning out which of these three categories of thing to try and how these three things should be arranged and what they should do. You ask yourself, which option sells the adventure? And then you'll know. Now, I could talk about this all day, but it has been 15 minutes, and I'm sure you're sick of me. So we'll leave it here with just a quick little summary of why this design principle is so useful. It really helps you to hone your design. And if you forget about it, then you're likely going to end up with an adventure that doesn't feel very coherent. And that's something we're seeing a lot of these days. Have a good one.